Good afternoon and salutations, my GH fans. Gladys. This woman, well, she's trash. But in this episode, well, she pretty much acts the same way that she does in pretty much every other episode. She starts coming in between Carly and Laura's conversation about, so when am I going to be invited to the wedding, this, that, and the third, and Carly was like, yo, what are you talking about? We didn't set a date. And when we do, you're not invited. So, of course, Gladys isn't there running her damn mouth. Brando sees her acting like a damn fool, and brings her over, because, he's like, yo, he brings her over back to the table. Gladys, I'm gonna be honest, the sad thing is that there's real Gladyses out there in the world that's just like that. And when Brando and Sasha was sitting there talking about the living situation and stuff, Brando was like, yeah, it's no easy way for me to sit there and tell you this, but, you gotta go. You gotta go. And Brando's mom is like, well, where am I going to go? And how am I going to sit there and afford rent? And she was like, you don't make enough money to sit there and pay for my rent wherever I'm going to go. I'm like, wait. In my head, I was like, let me just rewind this because I didn't just hear what I thought I just heard. This woman actually said, his mother said, you don't make enough money to pay for my rent on where I'm going. Are you... I don't have words for that. What do you say to that? What do you sit there and say to a mother that's practically demanding her son to pay for her rent? And Brandon was like, you gotta get a job. She was like, a job? A job? I gotta get a job? I'm like, this almost sounds just as bad as if a millennial was sitting there saying that. So she's a grown-ass woman, so it sounds 1,000 times worse. So she's whining and complaining and all like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Which was getting on my last effing nerves. And Sasha was like, you could work for me. You could work at Deception. And at first she was like, oh, I don't want to sit there and be doing stuff like tedious, like answering phones and stuff like that. Sasha is a lot smarter than I think a lot of people give her credit for. Sasha was like, you're working at Deception. You get to tell all your friends that you're working at Deception. That you're working with glamorous and beautiful people, and you can sit there and gloat and stuff like that, really just feeding her ego. And with that being said, Gladys was like, oh, well, I didn't sit there and think of it that way. Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, the sad part is that you had to sit there and practically trick a 50-something-year-old woman into working and not relying on her son to pay her rent. That's the sad part. Okay, that is the true sad part. But, again, Sasha... Because at one point when she was like, oh, I gotta get a job, and she was like, you put him up to this, didn't you? Well, the sad truth is that even if she did, you're a grown-ass woman. The fact that you're having this reaction just proves how sad and pathetic you really are. But, again... Sasha is a very clever woman and knew how to sit there and play into her. And got her to agree to work at the company. And with that being said, when she leaves, even Brandon was like... But with that being said, she has more time to work at Deception and less time to be sitting there prying into their lives because... at this point she's like a damn leech, so... those things are pretty just gross and disgusting. But yeah, I would sit there and say that's pretty much what she is. So, who is next? Oh, I'm not gonna lie. There was two scenes that I just completely different. I completely different care about. I completely different care about. I didn't care about. I think I said that right. And that is the Trina and Jocelyn scene, and the Carly and Laura scene. I absolutely did not care about either of them. And I'm not gonna lie, even Trina just got kind of on my nerves a little bit. Especially when she was sitting there talking to Jocelyn, and Jocelyn was sitting there asking, like, how do you feel about, Curtis dating your mom? And stuff like that, and the fact that she's having a dating life. At one point, Trina was like, I can't believe that she's out there dating and is serious and stuff, and the world is going so fast that, just bothers me that, that she's dating. It's almost as though, well, the world is going so fast, so Trina's mom have to be the exact the same. Like, she just has to be the same. And I was just like, it's really, I'm so trying not to curse. That's a really crappy and self-centered way to sit there and look at your mom's situation. The fact that all she does is practically work and raise you, but you want her to stay the same because the world around her is changing. Oh my. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that comment just annoyed the living hell out of me. And then it just keeps going on and on and on. And at one point, Trina's like, well, if Curtis did that to Jordan, then, he could possibly do that to my mom, and yada, yada, yada. And at one point, even, Jocelyn was like, listen, they're grown adults. And they get to sit there and make their own choices and make their own mistakes. And it's, it's none of our business. Once again, Trina was like, whoa, that's where you're wrong. I'm like, Trina, why don't you focus on actually having a love life of your own before you start trying to meddle in your mom's love life? Like, I get the fact that she wants to sit there and protect her mom. She wants to make sure that Curtis treats her right. But I'm like, whatever they do is what they do. Why don't you focus on you and whatever romance life that you think you're going to have, and stop being all like, oh, it just, I don't know, it just kind of annoyed me a little bit. And of course, Jocelyn talked a little bit about her mom and Jason, and I'm just going to be honest, I really didn't care. I really didn't care. I don't think she's going to go, like, I don't think that Trina's going to go, like, full, whatever, but, like, honestly, to tell you the truth, she's finding it a little weird, though, too, because she was mad at him at one point, but then she was thankful the next, and now Curtis is sitting there dating her mom. So I understand the emotional roller coaster. I get that part with her. Laura and Carly talking about Jason, and at one point Carly was like, do you think I'm moving too fast? Do you think it's too soon for me to be with Jason? And I'm like, it's not even the fact that it's too soon. It's just a simple fact that, for me, Jason is practically a brother to Sonny. But I'm like, yes it is. And Laura's like, no, it's not, because of yada yada yada. And I'm just like, yep, and we're just still doing this because the plot seems to matter more than, well, any sort of reality, because you know what it really came down to? She just co-signed her BS, and that's what I really didn't like. She just co-signed her BS, and of course she was sitting there talking about Kevin and how they've been friends for a while, and I'm just like, to be honest, your situation and Carly's situation is completely different. And I get the friends aspect, because, Laura's like, that's the best way to start a relationship, is to be friends and be best friends and build up from there. But I'm like, it's completely different, It wasn't like you were together with Luke for a long time, and he died, and Luke and, Kevin was somehow best friends. You can't really compare those two situations. So the fact that she was just like, I, I, I just don't care. Like, it was just stupid. And the whole conversation, I just didn't care, to be honest. Now, Anna and Finn open that freezer, and Anna's like, "Are you sure that he was dead?" And Finn's like, "Oh, well, I checked the pulse. I know what dead looks like." I'm like, "Well, why is he not here then? Like, why is he not here?" So at this point, Anna's like, "Well," she still wants to know, because she knows that Finn isn't the only person that moved that body. She knows somebody else is there, and she knows that he's protecting this other person. So they're getting into it a little bit, and Dante and Jordan comes down there. They go down to the basement, and Jordan's like, "What are you two doing here?" So Anna pretty much kind of covers for Finn, and that kind of drops the suspicion a little bit. I mean, of course, Jordan was sitting there kind of looking at both of them like, "Yeah, I know what she said, but I don't. That doesn't feel right." So they're looking around. They see some blood at the bottom of the freezer. So they're looking around and stuff like that. And they're out there, and Finn is like, "Thanks for covering for me, but now we got a problem because there's no body and there's blood that's even outside that they was saying." It was like, so at this point, Finn is pretty much panicking. And Anna's like, "Listen, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out." She's pretty much going to have his back. And that was pretty much the question at this point, which, let's be honest, it really wasn't a question. Was Anna going to sit there and cover and protect Finn? Because this whole conversation, the way that she started off with Finn yesterday, she was doing this whole double talk, and then she opens the body. It's like she made it seem like she was going to turn him in, And so the fact that the cops got there, it was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I just changed my mind. I decided to protect him out of instinct or whatever." But yeah, Finn is panicking. Now you got Liz upstairs that's practically sweating bullets. Liz, you almost look scared, like you could possibly go to jail. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to cover it up, which, again, I'm saying this ad nauseum, but it just comes across as, out of character for her. But she's freaking out. She's freaking out, and she's like, "What do you mean he's not there?" And Jason's like, "Did you check the pulse? Like, did you make sure he was dead?" And she's like, "Yes, I'm sure he was dead." Jason's like, "There's no body. So either, he's alive, or somebody picked him up." And he contacts Spinelli, and Spinelli was like, they didn't move, like, whoever moved the body was way before Jason got down there. And this was weeks. So at this point, they are like, well, Liz is frantic. And I'm sitting there thinking, this whole time I'm sitting there watching this, I'm like, so, remember when you went to that baseball game? You went to the bar, and you did a bunch of other things? Maybe you should have probably thought about moving the body, like, then. Or getting help then. But you decided, "Oh, no, that's cool. He's all nice. Let's go to the bar and hang out with Chase, and let's go to, t-ball practice, or, the baseball game." This whole time you're just out lollygagging and stuff like that. Meanwhile, this body has been missing for who knows how long. While you two idiots was doing everything else except for trying to move that damn body. So to be honest, again, this is why I look at this scene and I'm just like, Liz, Finn, whatever happens to y'all, happens to y'all. Only thing that sucks now is that Jason is kind of an accessory to some extent. I mean, hopefully Diane can sit there and get him off, but I'm like, yo, y'all two go down, and hell, even if Anna goes down, then I'm actually cool with that. But Jason, you gotta leave that man out of it, because he's about to disappoint me in another way, and I really hope that doesn't happen, but I'm pretty sure he is. Anyway, at some point they all meet up, and Finn walks into the room. He walks into, I guess, like one of the doctor's rooms or whatever, and he sees Jason, and Liz is like, "Nah, it's cool. He he knows everything. It's alright." And Finn was like, "I kept your name out of it. Like I kept you out of this whole. I didn't sit there and tell Anna." Now I'm sitting there thinking, at this point, Finn, it'd be much more better for you to sit there and tell Anna that Liz is involved, because, okay, the way that Anna handled this whole Peter situation was just, well, sad. It was sad. There was no other way to sit there and put it. I feel like there's certain circumstances, as far as like the fact that he was family and she thought that, he was her son at some point. The point is, she bossed that job. But Anna's not an idiot. And I think it would be much more helpful for her to know all the pieces than just whatever pieces and crumbs that Finn gave her. If you would have came to Anna the first time that happened, she would have had a better grasp of how to sit there and deal with the situation. And she could have either turned him in, or she could have helped. And either way, Finn at one point wanted to turn himself in anyway. So it would have been much more better if he would have came to Anna first. But of course he dicked around and did everything else except for like anything, and now Anna has to sit there and practically work overtime just to sit there and try to, cover Finn's ass. Let's just be honest. I think the last scene, and I'm not too sure, I think the last scene is Curtis and Portia. And the only thing that really happens that's really important is the fact that Curtis wants Trina to know about their history. About the affair with Mac. The affair with Taggart and everything like that. Like, because here's the thing, Trina knows that they're dating, and it's already weird and awkward enough. But if she finds out about their affair and Taggart and everything like that, she's gonna flip and she's gonna lose it. And Curtis is like, "Yo, leaving secrets like that is a landmine." And Portia's like, no one's gonna sit there and tell her. There's no way she's gonna sit there and find out. So there's no point in sitting there putting that amount of that type of burden on her. Like, there's just no point of it. That's just gonna hurt her and confuse her. And I'm like, yo, Curtis has a point. Tell her now, because if she finds out later on, she's gonna flip. You're gonna be all good and everything like that. Curtis isn't that they're talking about, "Oh, I'm gonna take you two girls out for dinner" and stuff like that. You're gonna do all of that, and then she's gonna find out later on. And then what? Portia just seems, well, just keep her in the dark, and that's gonna be that. So they argue about it for a little bit, and then they make up. And before, they start, like, really celebrating and stuff like that, Portia's like, "Yo, you gotta sit there and tell, like, Jordan this." And the fact of the matter is, he was at her house before he even talked to Jordan about this. I'm like, at what point do you plan on telling your, well, still wife? Like, when's that gonna happen? And of course you got busybody Stella that's just, practically committing a federal crime. And once again, I just cannot help but to laugh at the fact that before she took the letter, she was just like, "Lord, please forgive me. Please forgive me for me doing something bad and terrible." I don't... Listen, I'm not sitting there trying to get all religious and everything like that, but you don't get to just, commit a crime or commit a murder, but then sit there and say, "Oh, please forgive me. I'm about to sit there and stab this person. But it's cool. I'm not going to go to hell because I told you to forgive me before I did this sin. So we're good, right?" It's not how to... But yeah. I don't know when Curtis is going to get around to actually telling Jordan about this. Didn't he actually go and see Sean yesterday? So this dude did literally everything else except for tell his wife that, him and Portia is official. you know, I can understand why there's a lot of people that do not like Curtis. And I don't hate him, but I didn't like how he was going about this whole process. And, now the fact of the matter is, he doesn't even have the divorce papers in his hands. And he's already out there making out with Portia and, you know, trying to get things official and talking about future plans. I'm like, bro, you didn't even get back the divorce papers. And you're just like, all the way over there. Anyway, with that being said, I think that's pretty much about it. Like I said, the whole Trina and Jocelyn scene was just unnecessary to me, just kind of fillers. Vapid conversations that didn't really add up to much. And the whole Carly and Laura thing, just the simple fact that Laura Smith there co-signing Carly's BS and just being like, yeah, you should sit there and go out with Jason. Sonny would sit there and totally approve. It's like... So it's like everything that was Smith is saying was like, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. And I'm just looking at my phone the whole time because well, like I said, I just really didn't care. But if you found anything meaningful about one of those two conversations that wasn't for me, please let me know what it is and write it down in the comment section below. Just let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below in general. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe. I will see you in the next video.